We need to talk about this because it's like failure after failure, gaffe after gaffe after gaffe. And you start to say to yourself, really and truly, who's in charge? I mean, we just witnessed a total disaster, a humanitarian disaster in Afghanistan. We're looking at another disaster at our US-Mexican border. And now we're finding out that our climate czar, John Kerry, is over in France telling the French media that this president didn't have a darn clue as to why there was such a disaster presented to France when they had to pull out their ambassadors just a couple of weeks ago. I mean, come on. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Trish Regan Show. I am Trish. And you know what? I realize he's getting up there in age. I realize maybe, he's not the brightest bulb. But this is troubling. This, I want you to see it, is really, really troubling. Watch.
Absolument. And President Biden asked me about it, and I told him and expressed.
You told Joe Biden that it was not the right.
He asked me. He said, "What's the situation?" And I explained exactly. He had not been aware of that. He literally had not been aware of what had transpired. And
I see. So he's not aware of what's going on. So basically, by the way, just to refresh everybody's memory, because I'm sure you're at least aware, I'm at least aware, most people were aware that there was this big problem because we were in a deal with Australia, and Australia was supposed to buy like billions and billions and billions, like 50 billion euros worth of nuclear submarines from France. And then at last minute, they pulled out, they decided to get them from us and the UK. And so now Australia, the US, the UK have a deal in place to guard against Chinese aggression over in Australia's neck of the woods. Well, France was supposed to be part of that. And then they got sort of shut out last minute. Well, they weren't very happy. In fact, let me share with you some of the quotes, because the French diplomats were going bonkers over this. They felt like this was a complete betrayal. Let me quote, "a stab in the back." So that's how France saw it. And our own president isn't even aware. I mean, France pulls their diplomats, and then John Kerry is telling us he literally was not aware. Okay, so now John Kerry's thinking this is going to go over one of two ways, right? Like, oh, it was no big deal. He wasn't even aware. I'm sorry, this was like a really big deal. It was a really big deal to France. So talking about a slap in the face to France, you're telling them that the thing that they were so freaked out about, enough to cancel a gala and pull all their diplomats, which they'd never done before, wasn't that big a deal, that the president wasn't even aware? No. I don't buy it. I think something else is going on. I think he wasn't aware, but I think he wasn't aware because he's absolutely clueless. This is a guy who just needs to maybe turn on the news now and then, to actually familiarize himself with what's going on in the world. Maybe then we wouldn't have had such tragedy in Afghanistan. Maybe we wouldn't be looking at such tragedy at the US-Mexican border. In the meantime, he's going on about how we need to invest $3.5 trillion in our economy because China's getting ahead. I'm sorry, the answer is never to just throw more money at it. I'm a good old-fashioned Yankee in that respect, to live free or die in New Hampshire, where we don't believe in just throwing money at problems. And that's, by the way, no matter what side of the aisle you're on, because there is no income tax, no sales tax in the state of New Hampshire, because everybody recognizes what government has, government will spend. Anyway, he's out there stumping for his $3.5 trillion thing. We got to raise the debt ceiling, all that good stuff, all that jazz. And then he starts talking about, I don't know, can you make it out? This.
One of them. And by the way, parenthetically, when you build a charging station, it's like back in the day when my grandpa worked for the American Oil Company back in the turn of in the 1920 in that area. They went from state to state convincing people that allow them to put 20,000 gallons of gasoline under the ground. They didn't want them around. But guess what happened? Everything builds up.
I mean, I don't know. It's kind of hard to make out what he's trying to say. I think he's trying to tell us we need charging stations. And, you just kind of have to get people on board with that. But the way it came out was really jumbled. I mean, this happens a lot, all right? I don't need to tell you. You've probably seen all the clips. I've certainly played them in the past. It happens a lot. It happens far more than it should when you're the President of the United States. Now, you could say, okay, maybe he's not the most eloquent guy in the room. Fine. But then when you couple his inability to speak distinctly, properly, his inability to make sense with a really bad series of policy choices, then you start saying, what the heck is going on? Is he running things? Is he just some kind of puppet that they put up there? I mean, he must be running it because it's so bad, right? Like anybody else could do a better job. Either that or you have so many cooks in the kitchen that no one's running anything. I mean, just think about it. I wonder what's really going on and who's really making decisions. You know, I was just talking about the importance of live free or die and the individual and making sure that government doesn't get too much. You know, a big part of my platform here on the show is the importance of you, right? The individual in terms of taking responsibility for yourself, your family, your finances. And I just want to give a quick word from SelectQuote.com because they believe in that as well. And they believe in you and they believe in your ability to take care of your family, even in the sad event that we're not here. Look, life insurance is just an important thing to have. I talk about it a lot on this program because I had an experience when I was very young and a family in our neighborhood back in that live free or die state of New Hampshire they lost their father. These kids that I grew up near, they lost their father really, really young. And the whole family was going through this tragedy and they were trying to deal with this, but simultaneously they were trying to deal with the pain of not just the emotional loss, but the financial loss, right? Because they had no way to take care of themselves, a couple little kids and a mom. And so the community came together and we did what we could, but I just remember the family having to move, the trauma of all that and the challenges that they went through. And so I just wanted to remind everybody at this point to go to SelectQuote.com. If you don't have life insurance or if you think that you need more, go to SelectQuote.com and look at what they have to offer because you can put in all your information and then they've got the technology to go out and match you against all the biggest insurance providers, the best insurance providers out there. And they're going to look at your data and they're going to look at what policies are being offered and they're going to match you up. And it's super easy. It's super easy. They've been around 35 years. They've helped more than 2 million families. So do take a look at it. It's America's #1 term life insurance agency. I'm a big fan of whole insurance too, but that can be pretty steep and pretty expensive. And look, I just, again, see this. If you have anyone in your life that you care about and that is going to rely on you, not just financially, but emotionally or one or the other, right? Then you've got to do your part. So go to SelectQuote.com today. They will comparison shop all those highly rated insurance agencies. You'll be surprised how truly affordable a policy can be and how easy this is to do. So again, SelectQuote.com. Don't put it off another day. Go to SelectQuote.com. Within minutes, you're going to have your free quote. Again, SelectQuote.com. If you're watching this program, you can see the URL right there on the screen, SelectQuote.com. But again, I just am stunned by the inability of this president to, and I shouldn't laugh about it because it's actually not funny at all. I mean, when you look at the tragedy in Afghanistan, you look at the tragedy at the border, and you think about what's going on in our economy with inflation and the lack of people still in the workforce, not getting back into the workforce. We have a lot of challenges. And then you realize the guy has no clue when France is pulling its ambassadors and they're like, what the heck just happened with Australia and the UK? And somehow our president isn't aware of any of it. That's bizarre. Bizarre. You know what else is bizarre? Something I've talked about a lot, and that's sort of Facebook's clamping down on speech. I've come at the story in terms of Facebook a lot from that angle, as you well know. The company, however, is under a lot of threats now because the whistleblower came forward and she had done a series of articles, I thought excellent articles with the Wall Street Journal. She went on 60 Minutes on Sunday and then she was on Capitol Hill this week speaking, testifying, and really pointing the finger at Facebook, saying that they are part of the reason, or perhaps the reason, why we have so much division in society, as well as saying that they were really harming and hurting children, she alleged, with some of the policies that they have in place. I don't disagree with that. I do think, as I watch some folks in the conservative media just attack her and attack Facebook simultaneously and attack the left, I think somehow this is getting a little off course, in that we should all be in agreement, right? You don't want a vehicle that suppresses speech while simultaneously is encouraging, teenagers to be feeling or thinking things that they shouldn't. I mean, the depression that has set in, especially with teenage girls, as a result, we saw some of the Instagram stuff that they were fed, that's really serious. And so I think her testimony, regardless of, whether you like the idea of somebody trying to patrol that, we don't want that, right? We don't want that at all. But what we do need, in order to prevent that kind of Big Brother-esque atmosphere, is we need more choice. We need consumer choice, which means you cannot have one company controlling all the distribution, because that's a monopoly type of situation. Facebook has gotten to that stage, right? I mean, when you have billions of users and you're sort of the only game in town, I think it's just healthy for our country, for our people, and for our freedom of speech, our First Amendment, to have more ways to get messages across, which is why I encourage you all to go to TrishIntel.com. Do make sure that you go to my website, you sign up for the newsletter. Newsletter goes out every single day. You'll see all the stories that my team and I are focusing on for you. You will get a copy of this podcast delivered to you. Make sure you do download it, though. Go to Apple, iTunes, Spotify. Make sure you download the podcast there on those channels. Also, if you check out TrishIntel.com, got a store there. If you like the American flag on this jacket, perfect for fall. We have a whole line of clothing, hats and t-shirts and jackets and backpacks and all that good stuff to celebrate America, to celebrate freedom, to celebrate you. That live free or die spirit, very much a part of the store, because of course it's part of me, and I designed it all. I'm so excited to share it with you. So you can go to TrishRegan.store, you can go to TrishIntel.com, and I will see you there. I'll see you back here, of course, tomorrow as well. We have a lot to continue talking about, but think about it. I think I need to put a poll out on that. Just exactly who do you think is running the country? Is it really Joe Biden? Not so sure these days. Not so sure. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I'll see you tomorrow.